All right, John, thank you so much for joining me. You're rubbing your hands together as if you're cold. You're in beautiful Bris Vegas. I'm freezing down here at about 3-degree Melbourne. How are you?
I'm really good, James. Really good. It is cold. I'm probably in the dungeon here, so it does get a few. I notice as I come down the steps, it sort of gets a couple of degrees colder as I go down every step.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on Zoom, mate, in this COVID climate. How have you found it the last couple of months?
It was a bit scary at first, just because you don't know the unknown, and what's going to happen. Is it everything going to close down or what? And then you have to try to work out what you're going to do. We were a little bit lucky in that we had Hong Kong, to fall back on. But Hong Kong, they looked like they were going to plough on and keep going, sort of thing. But you just still didn't know with that as well. Australian racing, they've done a really good job to actually keep it going. So.
Big time, yeah. It's obviously had a big impact for Betfair, where I would it was one of the only sort of events that you could bet on globally, and we've got a global customer base, so it made things quite interesting, and thankful that the horses and the greyhounds and the rest of it were able to keep the lights on and keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I think most Betfair, all the corporates have found it very interesting, this climate, because they've all got to push into racing, which has been fantastic for racing. And it's to put the spotlight on them and taking it away from all the other sports, sort of thing. So it's been great for racing, that's for sure. Well, I would say there was a period probably in my life that there was an area where the younger generation was lost, whereas probably in the last couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years, they're back. And it's the older generation who are starting to get faded out. So it's an interesting spot, but it's mainly because of that area of the, when I was probably in my 20s to 30s, no one went to the races in that group. And that 20 or 30 now is 50 with, the way I am. And that generation is not around, they're not real bettors. Whereas now the 30 and below, they want to, they love it. So it's good.
So you're finding that, which is interesting. You're pretty active on social, and you shoot videos, podcasts. Like, you're really active in the content space. Have you found that that's been one of the bridges to keeping that younger audience engaged and you connecting with them?
Yeah, well, I suppose I wasn't so big on the social media until James Milner come on board with me, and he actually pushed me that way. And he's a young bloke. He's a 20-year-old bloke, and 21. I'm sure he's 20 or 21 now, but he's he loves it, and all that generation, it just love it, sort of thing. So he's pushed me in that way. I probably was doing it a little bit, but not as much as what I am doing now. So, but it's all due to, I think, if you hang around young blokes, you stay a bit young too.
Very good. And well, let's wind the clock back a little bit, because you've been in the game a long time, and it runs in your blood. Talk to me how you were introduced to horse racing.
I was fourth generation bookmaker. So there's probably, I think there's only one other family that was fourth generation. That was the Reeds. So, and we're pretty close family friends, sort of thing, of the Reeds. So it's been a bit like that. My great-great-grandfather was at I think it was called the Kedron Park Racetrack in Brisbane here, and that's just, I haven't even heard of it. And then my grandfather was a rails bookie for I don't know how many years, an SP at the start, and then a rails bookie. He was a barber, then an SP bookie, and then a rails bookie in Brisbane. And then my old man was a rails bookie in Brisbane for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. And then I finished up on the rails there for, I don't know how long, but I was about 22 years I was booking for. So, it's been going a fair while. And then the other side of the family was trainers and jockeys. My grandfather was a trainer. My uncle, Henry Davis, sort of thing, he was a trainer. He was from the Getting Closer sort of fame. And my cousins all married jockeys like Greg Hall and Steve Sharman and all that sort of crew. So I'm fully blooded racing, so,
yeah.
It sort of runs through my blood, and I loved it at the start. And Yeah, it's been a ride, and I'm still learning. That's the best part about this game is that when you start thinking you know it all, just give yourself an uppercut.
Very good. What talk to me about that? What's still what are you still learning? What's still challenge you each day and catching you off guard and improving?
Oh, everything really, because the problem with this game is that you've got to actually go back and look at I'm just finished off my Saturday results and trying to work out what I did wrong, what was in there that didn't look right and why it looked right, and sometimes you learn a lot more even when you're right. The market's gone against you, so you've got to work out why you have been right and the market's gone against you, and it could come back and say, oh shit, I've put this little area, so I've got to adjust that a bit. So you just keep on going over and over things all the time. The one thing that you can get yourself in a bit of trouble is you go down a path away from your little base, and it might be the wrong path, and you've got to be able to get back to that first path to go on again. Because if you get out here and then all of a sudden you start detouring off there, you're a long way away from where you started, and that's a real problem. And I've found it a few times, probably 3 or 4 years ago, sort of thing. I ran into a little bit of trouble with that side of things, and so it's tricky.
And just talk to me, going back a few years, what probed you to stop being a bookmaker and be betting more? Like, I'm sure you were betting a little bit when you were a bookie, but then what sort of transitioned you across?
Well, Mark Reed came to me around about 10 years. I finished in around about when I was about 42, I think I was. And he came to me when I was about 35 or something. And I think he was pretty keen for me to join up with him down there. And so it took a while before he took over my business in Brisbane, and he finished up buying my booking instead. So, and I had to work for him and run it for him. So I was sort of like, he was IAS and I was IAS Queensland. So we finished up, having a really good couple of years at it. And I sold just because I found I needed to get really big. If I stayed where I was I was just running along and just punting everywhere and little bits and pieces. I was doing everything, and I had to really commit to one way. And so I sort of thought, okay, I'll sell. First opportunity, like no one else sold a stand at the races sort of thing. It was sort of one of those things that he came along and seen an opportunity, and I thought, well, this is good. And I think there's a good avenue there, and I really got along with Mark really, well, and I still do. And it just created an opportunity for me I couldn't resist, and I took that avenue.
Right, and so that meant IAS sort of acquiring your customer base, and you would stay along as manager, and then potentially when Sportsbet came in, that was when you were completely out of it?
Yeah, that was, oh no, I had to stay around for 2 years to cultivate a bit of get them in line, and we changed the whole dynamics of the race, appearance of the bookie stand, because we had big monitors on the stand and no one was doing it. So we had the massive big TV monitors sort of thing, and we were going to display everything, every race meeting, and it flicked over from one. From 10 minutes to go, it was Eagle Farm, and then the next minute, then when it's over, the next one was, Goulburn, and the next one was, and it all moved down the line sort of thing, and it was just fantastic. And that's what really, got me excited about doing it, because I thought no one's doing this, and this is going to be really good. And we won, we won a lot of money over that period sort of thing for IS, and it was mainly because I was able to step up. I had some really good clients. I gained a lot more clients as well. And then Paddy Power came along. They noticed that they came over here and they had a look at it. And what they found was a lot of my clients was phone based, or, a couple of them were getting to the races, and they thought, okay, we think we can close that down and bring them all into, just the phone betting and the internet betting. and
Mhm.
it didn't work. It didn't work, but they did close it all down, and I went my way, and they went their way. So yeah.
Wow. And you must have had the exchange back then. You probably sounded like you're pretty tech savvy as a bookie on the rails. Were you one of the first ones to plug into the exchange as a bookie?
We weren't allowed to do it. I don't think at that stage. It was
Oh, right.
yeah. I'm not even sure whether Betfair. How long's Betfair been around in Australia?
Oh, I should know that. I know. I would guess about. I'd guess about 2008, 2009, but I'm sure I'll have egg on my face when I Wikipedia this after we get off. But it's been around in the UK since 2001, 2000.
Yeah, so say that's 12 years ago. I've been out around about that. I just can't remember what I was at. But so Betfair might have been just in, or not. So it was sort of everyone was, playing around with it, but we were definitely not allowed to have Betfair on a stand. The computers, it
Right.
was just part. We weren't allowed to do it. So, that may have been another reason why I wanted to get away, because I could actually see a lot more off the track and
Mm.
the funny part about that is, as a sort of semi-professional, if you want to call me that, I wanted to get away so that I could see a lot more and find out a lot more and see what's going on, instead of being, stuck at the racetrack. Whereas the people that are going to the racetrack wanted us to stay there so they could see people like me and other people to actually see what's going on. Because one bloke running down the other way, knocking off prices left, right, and centre, they want to follow them and they want to get in there and follow them and run down the other way, sort of thing. So it's all that culture of the pros trying to get away, and the people that were going to the races wanted to stay there. So what we're getting off the subject, but what they need to do is try to bring back the pros to the races and get a culture there that everyone's watching and seeing what's going on. Because, I know a lot of times, I think you've said it to a few people, um, how do you look at the market and how do you learn from the market? Well, a lot of people haven't learned from the market. They learn from watching other people run around the place and what they're backing. And it's just a change of culture and trying to work out. That's a big group of people on Betfair or wherever betting, but they can't individualise, one person. Whereas if they think one bloke's a joker and one bloke's smart, and he's going that way and he's going that way, he's going to follow the smart bloke, not the joker. So
You think? Yeah, you're touching on something that's massive for the industry in terms of solving crowds, turnover, keeping relevant, competing with other sports. Is that a potential solution? Is the racetracks having pretty sophisticated setups that replicate your home office, but on track, but also have some interaction where you can bet for cash and there's a bit more, is that what you're suggesting in terms of creating more of that energized community and getting everyone back there?
no doubt, no doubt. They did try it a little bit like in Sydney, with a couple of little hubs or whatever they used to call them down there, and they used to bet, but they had to. It was more they had to get the professional punters out amongst the crowd, or get them out there. So they I've always wanted to set up a big like a betting shop in the main street, with massive big screens on on the walls, and people go in there and they sit on chairs and they watch what's going on, and they can bet and do whatever they like. But why not just do that at the racetrack and bring that back to the track? And you'd have to actually. You'd have to give it an incentive to get the punters back there, or the pros back there, because why, when they've got everything set up at home, why would they go to the track? So there's a fine line there, but obviously it's just something that it may have been lost, but there was an opportunity there probably 10 years ago to do it, and they didn't do it, and they might have lost it. So.
And does that influence you now? Like Brisbane Carnival's just finished? Did you go to Eagle Farm or to Doomben at all during that period, or are you disabled when you're there because you can't access all the information that you can at home?
I only go down there now just to see. Like the last time I went there probably would have been 14 months ago, 16 months ago, and I went down there
Wow.
really to go back and see if I could get something or learn something from looking at the horses again. Because when I left, I had about 2 or 3 blokes going around the place to look at horses and feed me back information. And mainly I did that because I was looking at it at nearly every meeting or punting at every meeting. I was going there and I knew the horses, and I just knew what I was looking at, and whether it was just for next time or today, how it looked, and just remembering the horse to know that, geez, that horse has improved or it's gone backwards or whatever. So I needed that, and I am missing that now. I sort of couldn't. I've had one bloke there that was, or 2 blokes probably, were pretty good, but it just wasn't like seeing it yourself. So I went back down there to have a look to see whether I could learn a bit more from being there and watching it and trying to set up something down at the track. And I just found it a bit too, there was too many people coming up to say hello, and or you wanted to say hello to, and so it was just distracting. So you'd have to somehow get yourself away, come out, find a little area where you just pin your ears back and have a look at it and take off and go back to where you sit. And it was just hard. It could be done, but I don't know. I'd love to do it. I still love to do it, and I would love to be booking still.
And okay, and that's just too hard at the moment to obviously in the current climate, but it's just your business has probably evolved too far to be able to step back and give up what you're currently doing. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we did. I did actually venture into a few things. A mate of mine, Dean Shannon, he started up bookmaker.com, and I was on the board of that, and I was with them doing that, and we finished up selling to Ladbrokes and did a few things like that, and then Dean went off and started Ned's, and then and he's just continued on. He's an absolute genius. He's just a bloke who just knows. He's gone from someone who was in a different field to coming in here, and he just knows it so well. And I tried that sort of side of things as far as the corporate side of things, having a look at that, and but it's a different type of situation. It seems like for me, all these sort of things, even with myself in a smaller group, when I had about 8 or 9 staff there at one stage, and I found myself managing personalities more than managing horses, and that was tough. That was really tough for me, and I didn't like it, and I just wish that I probably could have picked the heads a bit better than what I did, but you live and learn.
You do.